To save his family, a boy invades the police station and says, "Arrest my father, please." The scene begins on a quiet Tuesday morning. The sun is not yet fully up, but it is already illuminating the streets of San Juan with its golden light. The police station is quiet, with the distant sound of conversations and the occasional ringing phone. The police officers are busy with their routines, filling out reports, drinking coffee, and exchanging stories from the previous day. Suddenly, the police station door opens with a bang, breaking the serenity of the place. Enrique, a 6-year-old boy, runs in. Tears stream down his face, wetting the faded blue shirt he wears. Her sobs are loud and desperate, attracting the immediate attention of everyone around her. He stumbles towards the counter, his small legs barely able to keep up with the speed of his panic. "Someone please help me," he screams, between sobs. "I want you to arrest my father," he says, his voice firm but with a tremor that reveals the depth of his emotions. A worried-looking police officer, Maria, approaches quickly. She bends down to be at Enrique's level, her heart sinking when she sees the boy's condition. "Hey darling. What happened?" she asks softly, trying to calm him down. Enrique tries to speak, but the words are lost amid his sobs. He takes a deep breath, trying to compose himself. Maria puts her hand on her shoulder, offering comfort. "My father," Enrique finally manages to say. "He hurts me and I don't want that to happen anymore." Maria feels a stab of pain in her chest. That boy, so young and fragile, should not have known this kind of suffering. She looks into his eyes, filled with fear and pain, and feels a deep responsibility to protect him. "Come with me, Enrique. Let's talk in a quieter place," she says, holding your hand firmly but gently. She takes him to a small room at the back of the police station, where he can sit and breathe a little more calmly. Enrique continues to tremble, but begins to feel a little safer with Maria's presence. "You can tell me what happened, in your time, okay?" Maria speaks sweetly. Enrique wipes the tears from his face with his shirt sleeve. He begins to talk about the nights he wakes up scared by his father's screams, and about the constant fear he feels at home. Maria listens to every detail attentively, her heart heavy with Henry's suffering. She knows she needs to act, but she also needs to make sure Enrique feels safe and protected. "Enrique, you were very brave to come here today. We'll help you, I promise," she says, holding his hands tenderly. "We'll make sure you stay safe." While they talk, other police officers begin to take action, following Maria's instructions. The police station, once peaceful, is now full of intense energy, everyone determined to help that boy. Enrique feels a timid hope forming in his heart. For the first time, he feels that perhaps there is a way out of the nightmare he faces every day. He looks at Maria, his eyes still teary, but with a spark of hope. The officers quickly prepare, putting on their bulletproof vests and checking their communications radios. The atmosphere is tense but determined. The way to Enrique's house is short, but every minute seems to drag on. Maria keeps her focus on the road, her thoughts focused on protecting the boy. She knows they need to act quickly. When they arrive at the house, a small residence worn out by time, the tension increases. The car is parked, and the police officers get out of the car with determination. Enrique is at the police station with Maria, waiting for his father. Carlos knocks on the door firmly. "Police. Open the door." Nobody answers. They prepare to enter, adrenaline coursing through their veins. With a push, the door opens. The sight they encounter is bleak. Rogerio, Enrique's father, is lying on the sofa, his clothes dirty and his body weak. His eyes, dull and tired, look at the police officers with a mixture of surprise and despair. "Rogerio, you are under arrest," Carlos announces, his voice firm and without hesitation. Rogerio tries to get up, but his legs give out. Carlos and Pedro hold him down, efficiently cuffing his hands. Rogerio resists briefly, without understanding why he is being arrested, but soon realizes that he has no way of fighting the police. They do a quick inspection of the house, checking for anyone else who might be in danger. They find Enrique's room, a small and simple space, but marked by scattered toys and children's drawings on the walls. The sight moves them deeply. Rogerio is taken out of the house and begging to be released. He is placed in the car and taken to the police station. Confused and worried, he is taken inside by the agents, his body weak and his thoughts in disarray. Carlos and Pedro escort him carefully, aware of the emotional charge that this moment carries. When they enter, the sight of the police station with its cold light and routine police noises seems surreal to Rogerio. He tries to process everything, but his mind is a jumble of unanswered questions. On the other side of the room, Enrique is sitting in a chair, swinging his legs nervously. Her eyes, swollen from crying, stare at the door, waiting anxiously. When Rogerio enters, his eyes widen and a mixture of emotions passes across his face: fear, relief, and a deep longing. "Daddy!" shouts Enrique, his voice small but full of emotion. Without hesitation, Enrique runs to his father, with his arms outstretched. The police, taken by surprise, are perplexed by the scene. They look at each other, unsure of how to react, but Maria gestures for them to let the boy get closer. Rogerio kneels, his handcuffed hands making it difficult to hug, but he tries anyway. Enrique clings tightly to his father, sobbing. "Enrique, my son. What are you doing here?" whispers Rogerio, his voice choked with emotion. He feels hot tears roll down his face, mixing with Enrique's sobs. Maria watches the scene, her heart sinking. She sees the pain and love in that desperate embrace, and knows she needs to be careful with her words. "Enrique, you are very brave. We're here to help you and your father," says Maria, in a soft, comforting voice. Enrique looks up at Maria, his eyes shining with tears. He feels a small relief in her words, but the pain and fear are still deep. "Daddy, I just want you to be okay," says Enrique, his voice trembling, but full of determination. The police officers, still surprised, begin to understand the depth of the relationship between father and son. Carlos approaches Maria, whispering something that makes her nod affirmatively. They know they need to intervene sensitively and carefully. "Rogerio, let's take you to a room where you can talk to Enrique. We need to better understand what is happening to be able to help," says Maria, gently. Rogerio nods his head, grateful for the opportunity. The police officers help him to get up, and Enrique keeps his small hand clinging to his father, refusing to let go. They are led to a more private room where they can have a moment of peace. Inside the room, Rogerio sits on a chair, still handcuffed. Enrique climbs onto his father's lap, his small body shaking. Rogerio holds him the best he can, trying to offer comfort. Enrique looks up at Maria, his eyes wide and full of tears. He takes a deep breath, trying to calm himself, but the confusion and fear are evident on his face. I just wanted Dad to have food," confesses Enrique, his voice trembling. Maria frowns, not fully understanding what Enrique means. She bends down to his level, trying to offer an encouraging smile. "What do you mean, Henry?" she asks, delicately. Enrique looks at his father, then at Maria, and then at the other police officers who watch in silence. "I saw on television. They said that imprisoned people receive food 3 times a day. I thought that if Dad was arrested, he would have something to eat and wouldn't get weaker," explains Enrique, his voice low but full of sincerity. The police officers exchange glances with each other, the perplexity on their faces evident. Enrique's confession reveals an innocent and desperate interpretation of reality. Rogerio feels his heart sink when he realizes how much his son worried about him, to the point of making such a drastic decision. Maria places a gentle hand on Henry's shoulder, her eyes full of understanding and sadness. "Enrique, did you do this because you wanted to help your father?" she asks, softly. Enrique nods, his tears still falling. I didn't know what else to do. Dad always looks so tired and weak. I just wanted him to be okay. Rogerio feels the tears run down his face, his heart broken by his son's innocence and love. He tries to speak, but his voice cracks. He looks at Maria, looking for some way to explain the complexity of her situation. Enrique, you are a very brave boy with a huge heart, says Maria, in a tender voice. But there are other ways to help your father. We are here for that. The other officers, who were initially disconcerted, now understand the depth of the situation. Carlos approaches, placing a comforting hand on Rogerio's shoulder. Enrique wipes his tears with his shirt sleeve, still holding his father's hand. So, are you going to help Dad? He asks, with a thread of hope in his voice. Maria nods firmly. Yes, Enrique. Let's help your father get better. Let's make sure he has food and everything he needs. Rogerio, with his hand still cuffed, tries to squeeze his son's hand as a sign of comfort. Thanks, son. I promise we will find a way to improve things, says Rogerio, his voice trembling but determined. I never wanted you to go hungry, son. I was trying to do the best for you, Rogerio murmurs, his voice choked by the weight of guilt. Enrique looks at his father, his big brown eyes filled with sadness and confusion. But why didn't you tell me, Daddy? Why didn't you ask for help? Enrique asks, his voice small and full of hurt. Rogerio lowers his head, unable to look at his son. He feels the deep pain of not having been able to protect Enrique from the deprivation, fear and uncertainty that he himself faced. I didn't want you to worry any more than you already were. I just wanted to protect you, he replies, the words coming out as a defeated sigh. Maria and the other officers listen silently, their expressions reflecting compassion and a quiet urgency to help. Carlos, the oldest among them, approaches Rogerio with a serious but kind expression. Rogerio, you did what you could. No one is judging you here. We just want to understand how we can help you and Enrique in the best way possible, says Carlos, his voice calm and reassuring. Rogerio looks up at Carlos, a mix of gratitude and shame in his eyes. I just wanted Enrique not to go through what I went through. I sacrificed everything for him, even my own food, confesses Rogerio, his voice breaking. Enrique hears this with a mixture of sadness and admiration. He never knew how much his father was suffering, trying to protect him from a reality too harsh for a child to understand. Maria approaches Enrique, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Enrique, your father did what he did because he loves you very much. He wanted you to be safe and fed. Now that we know this, we can find a way to help you both, explains Maria, in her soft voice. Enrique looks at Maria, his eyes still teary, but a small thread of understanding beginning to form in his mind. I didn't know, Dad. I thought you didn't want to eat because you were mad at me, Enrique murmurs, his voice shaking. Rogerio feels his heart break when he hears this. He never wanted Henry to feel this way. My son, I would never be mad at you. I just wanted to protect you from all of this, says Rogerio, his voice a whisper full of regret. The police officers, now gathered in a small adjacent room, discuss in hushed whispers how they can help this family in need. Maria, the police officer who initially calmed Enrique, listens intently, her heart heavy with the story she has just witnessed. Carlos, one of the most experienced police officers, takes the lead in the discussion. Their situation is more serious than we imagined. Rogerio sacrificed his own food to ensure that Enrique had enough. We need to act quickly to ensure they have the basics to survive, says Carlos, his voice reflecting the seriousness of the situation. Maria nods, looking through the glass door to where Enrique is still sitting with his father in the makeshift interrogation room. I can bring food and basic supplies to their home. Maybe we can help them get through this difficult time while we look for a more permanent solution, just suggests Maria, her voice firm but with evident compassion. The other police officers agree with Maria's proposal. Everyone is touched by the vulnerability of Rogerio and Enrique's situation. They know that as law enforcement officers, their responsibility does not end with arresting criminals, but extends to protecting and caring for the communities they serve. Meanwhile, inside the room, Enrique holds his father's hand tightly, his thoughts swirling around the painful revelations he just heard. He looks at Rogerio, seeing him now not just as his father, but as a vulnerable man sacrificed for love. "Daddy, why didn't you tell me you were starving? I could have helped in some way," Enrique murmurs, his eyes full of tears. "I didn't want you to worry any more than you already were. You are my priority, always have been. I would do anything for you, Enrique," he replies, his voice hoarse with emotion. Enrique tightens his grip on his father's hand, feeling helpless in the face of their situation. He can't imagine the silent pain his father endured to protect him. Meanwhile, outside the room, Maria and the police are quickly organizing themselves. They gather non-perishable food, basic hygiene products and other essential supplies that can help alleviate Rogerio and Enrique's immediate situation. Maria mentally checks the list, making sure nothing essential has been forgotten. Carlos approaches her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Maria, be careful out there. This family needs us now more than ever," he says, his voice thick with concern. Maria smiles slightly at Carlos, grateful for his support. "I'll do what I can. Let's make sure they know they're not alone in this," Maria replies, determined. With the supplies ready, Maria leaves the police station towards the patrol car. She feels a mix of responsibility and hope, knowing that every gesture counts in building a safer and more stable future for Rogerio and Enrique. As Maria drives through the city, her mind turns to the humble home where father and son face their own battles. She wonders how they are handling the situation now that the truth has come out. Enrique, with his innocence and love for his father, and Rogerio, with his determination to protect his son at any cost. Arriving at Rogerio's house, Maria takes a deep breath before getting out of the car. She mentally prepares herself for what she might find inside. It's not just a supply drop, it is an act of compassion and solidarity in a time of despair. Inside the simple house, Rogerio is sitting with Enrique at the kitchen table. Their faces are marked by concern and exhaustion, but there is also a new flame of hope, fueled by the promise of help from the police. Maria knocks on the door softly and is greeted by Enrique, whose eyes light up when he sees her. "It's Police Officer Maria, Daddy. She brought food," exclaims Enrique, running to open the door. Rogerio stands up with effort, his face showing a mixture of gratitude and embarrassment when he sees Maria there with bags of supplies. "Rogerio, we are here to help. There's no need to feel ashamed," says Maria, smiling gently. Rogerio shakes his head, unable to find words to express his gratitude. He accepts the supplies with a nod, allowing a bit of relief to sink into his heart. In the small town of San Juan, where news travels like the wind between the narrow streets and busy markets, the story of Rogerio and Enrique spreads quickly. The community, known for its solidarity and sense of neighborliness, is moved by the revelation of the difficulties faced by the family. People who barely know Rogerio and Enrique feel touched by the story of a father who sacrificed everything for the well-being of his son. In a unified gesture of compassion, local residents begin to organize. First, it's a group of neighbors who meet in a small coffee shop, discussing how they can help. The mothers who previously shared stories about their children and recipes are now determined to make a difference in the lives of Rogerio and Enrique. They need immediate help. "We can't let this family go through this alone," says Anna, one of the group's unofficial leaders, her voice firm. Ideas start to flow. Someone suggests a fundraising campaign to help cover Rogerio and Enrique's immediate expenses. Another proposes a collection of food and basic products to ensure that their pantry is always stocked. Little by little, a concrete plan begins to form. Meanwhile, Inside the police station where Maria and the other police officers are still attentive to Rogerio and Enrique's needs, the news of the community mobilization arrives as a ray of hope. It seems like the whole city is coming together to help your family, Rogerio. This shows how much you are loved here, comments Maria, as she hands Rogerio one of the pamphlets that have started to be distributed. Rogerio reads the leaflet with mixed disbelief and gratitude. He never expected to receive so much support from strangers, people whose lives intersect with his only briefly on the city's busy streets. I don't know how to thank them all. I just wanted Enrique to have a better life than I did, Rogerio murmurs, his voice breaking. Enrique is next to him, looking at the brochure with wide eyes. He doesn't fully understand what's happening, but he feels the wave of warmth and hope that surrounds his family. Dad, will people help us? Enrique asks, his voice full of curiosity and hope. Rogerio looks at his son, seeing the purity and naivety of his questions. He places a gentle hand on Enrique's shoulder. Yes, son. It seems so. We'll get through this together, Rogerio replies, trying to hide the emotion in his voice. As the days pass, the community campaign gains strength. Flyers are distributed on the streets, posts on social media multiply, and donations begin to arrive from all corners of the city. People come together in a collective effort to help Rogerio find a stable job, a way out of the financial difficulties that are holding him back. On a sunny afternoon, one of the local businessmen who heard about Rogerio's story walked into the police station, determined to offer an opportunity. Rogerio, I heard about you and what you're going through. I have an opening in my store that I think could be perfect for you. Are you interested? He asks, extending his hand with an encouraging smile. Rogerio can hardly believe the opportunity in front of him. Yes, I'm interested. Thank you so much for this. I will do my best, Rogerio replies, his voice trembling with gratitude. In Enrique's life, every small event is a big milestone. After that tumultuous day at the police station, where his world turned upside down, things slowly begin to adjust. He still vividly remembers the moment he saw his father in handcuffs, a scene that could have been devastating if not for the relief that followed when the police explained that they were there to help, not punish. Since then, Enrique has experienced a mix of emotions. The initial fear of losing his father gave way to profound relief at seeing him out of danger. The tight hug they exchanged when Rogerio was released is a memory that Enrique carries with him as a shield against uncertainty. Returning to school was a big step for Enrique. At first, he was reluctant to leave the house, fearing what others might think or say. But he soon realized that his friends and colleagues were more supportive than he expected. They welcomed him back with smiles and curious questions, and this helped Henry feel less isolated. However, even with the support of his friends, Enrique faces emotional challenges. The nights are the worst. Sometimes he wakes up sweaty and scared, reliving the moment he saw his father at the police station. The images are mixed with confused thoughts about what would happen if Rogerio had not been released. It was Enrique's teacher who suggested psychological support. She noticed how distant he seemed at certain times and how his anxiety manifests itself at unexpected times. After the first session, where a gentle psychologist listened to him without judgment, Enrique began to see the value in talking about his fears and concerns. He learns techniques for controlling his breathing when anxiety threatens to overwhelm him, and this gives him a sense of control he didn't know was possible. At home, the dynamic between Enrique and his father is also changing. Rogerio, aware of the impact the events had on his son, strives to be more open about his struggles. He doesn't want Enrique to feel like he needs to protect him all the time. They have honest conversations about what happened that day at the police station, and Rogerio makes a point of explaining his financial difficulties without hiding anything. These conversations are difficult, but necessary to rebuild trust between them. Enrique begins to understand that his father is human, with his own weaknesses and fears. This helps him feel less guilty for not realizing earlier what Rogerio was facing. The community continues to play a vital role in Enrique and Rogerio's lives. Donations and emotional support have not diminished since that first impulse of solidarity. Neighbors offer to help with small household chores, schoolmates make a point of inviting Enrique to extracurricular activities, and the constant presence of Maria and other police officers in their lives is a constant reminder that they are not alone. If you liked this moving story, leave a like and tell me in the comments what you would have done if you knew that a family close to you was going through difficulties. Stay now with another touching story.